Good afternoon, and welcome everybody to Office Hours session number two. In this session, we'll be continuing onwards from where we left off last time. Last time being looking at the home page, the dashboard, what that meant for sales and ops teams. And today we'll be transitioning into the customers tab. Very simply put, this is where all of the customers will be found once we're integrated, let's say, with a supplier's ERP system. One of the core functions is keeping the customer records and contacts and order history associated with customers up to date, even orders that are outside of OrderEase, truing them up to be associated to the right customer profile inside of a supplier's account. Within OrderEase, there's a numbers of ways to find the certain customers that you're looking for, but for some context, there's different ways that we can set up the customer list. There could be ways to set it up for sales reps, sales managers, territory leaders, leadership members, even office admins or order operations team members that might need a bit more complete access to a customer list. Whereas maybe a sales rep within the field should only be seeing their dedicated customer, listing, or for the customers within a region that they're supposed to be seeing. And that's the kind of experience that they're going to have inside of OrderEase. So, very simply put, I'm a sales rep. When I log in, let's say, and I manage the state of Florida, or let's say in Canada, I do, Northern Ontario, or this, the province of Quebec, or whatever that might look like. When I log in, I actually see my dedicated territory listing. And for some context, if there was, let's say, maybe some orders that were happening, outside of my territory, I wouldn't even need to see them. I'm responsible for my region, my list of accounts, all orders relative to them. But it all just falls back on the permissions. What should they have access to? What notifications or correspondence should they be receiving when things do happen from customers? But the common thing I've seen as well is that for administrators or people that run the order desk, they might have access to the complete listing because you might not know, well, who's actually calling in. One of the nice or really great benefits is that even if orders are placed directly, calling into head office and the inside salesperson does the order for the particular customer using the system, the sales rep will get the notification, and that way they're not missing a beat or, kind of have that bit of a gray area if orders are actually going outside of, the rep being notified on when it's been placed, or, if they're the one taking the initiative on it. Some functionality that we'll look at today, of course, is we do have the search function. So you can simply go in, you can search for a partial match on a customer that you're looking to get some information on or ultimately start an order for. But there's also some other functionality that's pretty handy, is we do have what we call the filters area. And if I do click it, what it's going to do is simply bring up some different, and or statements. So you can go through your listing, see, well, I'm only looking for, customers in the city of Scarborough, or I'm only looking for, customers that are located in Fort Lauderdale. But you can do multiple statements. One of the cool things that I've seen some reps doing is saying, well, listen, I'm about to go to this area, fill in the detail, and I'd like to pull up a dedicated customer list of, potentially, where it's been 30 days since their last order. So if they've got their regular route and their regular sort of hit list for the day, there could be some low-hanging fruit where maybe there's a couple extra visits. They could pop in, they can make a few calls, and just gives them all the information that they need to make some smart choices on how they're spending their time that day. Multiple ways you can filter the customer list, and those filters are ever growing as well, just based on feedback from clients. And I've been blessed to see the system grow just from constructive, feedback from clients. Hey, I wish we had this problem. It could do this, or this would help us, manage our customers. That's how the system is progressing outside of our own initiatives as well. But as a quick example, what I'll do is I'll go in and find one of my sample customers here. So it'll search the database of the list of accounts. I am in a bit of my staging environment, so a little bit slower than production. But what I'll do here is I found the company that I'm specifically looking for, and if we actually click on the company, you'll get their full profile. Now, the customer on their side of your solution could actually log in. They could update their banners, their logos. They could just polish it up a little bit. But at its core, a lot of this information is just being pulled directly from the ERP system. Again, to keep the company records up to date, and prevents you having to, let's say, update two systems, doing the same job twice, because that would be honestly counterintuitive. And we're meant to drive the efficiencies where you do the job once in your internal core system, and those updates then translate across OrderEase or any of your connected channels related to customers, pricing, products, inventory, all those kinds of things. But what you will see is pulled right from the ERP. We've got the company name, we've got the general email on file. What I've seen in a lot of instances is you've got like accounts payable at so-and-so.com, but that will also allow you to come in and we can bridge the gap on all the actual contacts, the people that you're actually working with outside of an invoice capacity that you'd like to have record of or access to the customer side of the system to work alongside their reps or receive their orders and their shipments and their invoices from you and everything. But we will have, let's say, the phone number, the general phone number on file, pulling up the bill to and the ship to address, and a bit of a cool functionality, especially for maybe some new accounts or new reps that are taking over territories, is that we do provide them a Google Map location directly inside the platform. So then they can get a sense of, let's say, if this was their first visit, hey, you know what? They're on the corner of so-and-so and so-and-so. And, if I passed, the home hardware or I passed the UPS store, or I'm starting to see the Burger King, if I'm going west, I've gone too far. So you're able to see sort of where this customer is located. Some other information, like I alluded to, is the contacts section. There's no limitation to the amount of contacts because, I've worked retail many years. There's turnover, changing of the guard happens. But what it allows you to do is set up all the different individuals that you're currently working with at this particular, location that you are working with. Things like, the category manager, the junior buyer, management, leadership. And it does give the reps the opportunity that when they're on the road, because this is all accessible from their mobile device, Apple, Android, online and offline capabilities, is they can come in and they can self-manage their contacts listing, and especially instead if they walk in one day and they're working with Joe at the hardware store as their buyer, and then a couple weeks later they show up and it's now Mary. Well, what you could do, you could go in and update the contact, Mary Swanson. We've got her phone number and extension. We've got her email. We've got her role specifically. So as we're setting up contacts, this is the manager, category manager, junior buyer, seasonal buyer, owner, co-owner, whatever it might be. And even a comment section. So if you're, want to leave a little bit of the a comment about the certain contact, hey, person's all business. Or, hey, don't forget to know their kids play hockey or baseball. You can ask them about sort of how their tournament was going or anything like that. Just some simple ways to leave a little bit of a comment. It could be a personality type, could be something like that, just to have record of it. And last but not least, just on the contact side is just some additional settings. Do we want to set this contact up as a view only? Just simply means, hey, we can get this person into the system, but ultimately on the buying side, the portal for the customers, they can't order. They've got view only access. They can view all the products, potentially maybe see some pricing, see inventory, but can't place the order. It's just a toggle. And just some suppression settings. You might want to set up the owner, but the owner doesn't need to get invited. You need them there as just a record or as a placeholder that if the owner ever wants to come in, but you're predominantly working with the buyers or the category managers there, it does give the owner the option to claim their user for their retail location or multiple retail locations with one login if they see fit. And same thing with the suppress all emails. There might be some buyers that say, yes, we're obviously going to need all the correspondence, the POs after, you've submitted the order for us or updates on the orders. But potentially the owner, as a good example, hey, we can suppress their emails. They're not going to get hit with every single, hey, your shipment's been processed or, here's your initial purchase order. Your order's been confirmed. Your order's been invoiced, whatever that is. It's just a setting we can turn on at the start. However, as these users, people claim they're users, they could go in and then start self-managing their own permissions, their own notifications, and they can make adjustments on the fly as well. So we want to make sure that the customer is also having a really good experience. Not even just for maybe a secondary topic down the road about even integrating, into their point of sale systems and having these orders automatically translate into their system. So it prevents them, having to rekey things in over and over and over again, when technically it's already been done by the rep. Because we want to save all parties and give some value to all parties as part of the solution as well. One of the last pieces just on this particular part of the customer profile is just the private information. Now, again, this is stuff that's really not being touched. A lot of this falls back on the links to, the ERP system. Does the customer ID number inside the ERP or, accounting system or backend system line up with the customer ID inside of OrderEase? Usually, an address changes, a phone number changes, a contact changes, but potentially a lot of instances I've seen, some do, but what I've seen that doesn't change is that particular record or the ID number associated with it. So this is that link just to make sure that these orders from this account land to the right account inside of the ERP. But other things like the bill to number that's fed up from the ERP and kept up to date, the payment terms that are delegated in the ERP are fed up here and kept up to date, more so for visibility. And then even some custom or user defined fields, because there could be a couple fields inside the ERP system or backend system that you'd like reflected just at the company profile level. Could even just be for visibility's sake or just whatever they could be. We do offer a number of custom fields that we could link in just to link those certain things to the ERP system. Outside of that, we've also got the orders tab at the customer level. Complete order history, very handy for a rep in the field, especially if they're going through historically through emails and manual processes and order forms and spreadsheets. With this, again, they've got every single order at their fingertips, in the field, on the computer, on the tablet, in the mobile device, and all orders actually transfer or are reflected between all devices. Just simply meaning I did an order on the phone today, I see it on my computer this afternoon, I work from home tomorrow, I write some orders, I see those orders for customers I'm visiting in a week from now in the field on my mobile device. So you'll have a complete record. And one thing I'll mention as well is that with that linkage to the ERP, I've seen it before. There could be some instances where orders are just being, for whatever reason, being manually keyed in outside of the OrderEase system. That evening, we typically look inside the ERP and what we call is a true up. Are there orders missing for certain accounts that are within our ecosystem we've created that we need to just bring up to the, into their orders tab? Even things like have orders changed after delivery. So if a rep's written the order, it's gone through the approval process internally, and something changed in the ERP, a price change, an inventory change, they substituted something, they removed a quantity or a product or adjusted a quantity on a product. That night, OrderEase does their daily, or their, at a bare minimum, their daily true up. So that way, if there was any changes, those changes reflect back to OrderEase, and that rep doesn't come in going, oh, but I did that call with them like last week and they decided to add 50 units of this. Why am I not seeing that on their history while I'm now standing with them today? They won't be hit with that situation. It will true up for them. Outside of that, there is ways where you could go in, you could, print orders, can't delete orders that have already been submitted. These are just ones that were being worked on, but I could export them. I could download them. I can even copy an order, a quick carbon copy. I can do a reassignment on an order saying potentially, let's take this order and this customer operates a secondary location. Hey, let's copy it and assign it maybe to the secondary location, but they want to remove this one product and they want to add this one in to reassign it. So lots of cool things that you can do under the orders tab. And we do offer custom POs. There is no charge for the custom PO. So if you don't like the one that comes out of the box, the printable one, the one that gets sent to the customer, it's got your branding, it's got some really good information, but there could be some things on there where you say, we don't really need that, or can we just change the layout, or I want it landscape versus portrait, or vice versa. You can actually come in and develop your own custom PO. But they're all housed here. And what's really cool is you can even click on an order from, let's say, a couple weeks back, hit review. There's a reorder button right there, which allows you to create a brand new one, still make adjustments, submit it right through. And I know that the ordering process for reps or for customers probably will be coming about maybe in another session, because that would be certainly a core competency of OrderEase is the ease of use for ordering. What you'll also see here is the assignments tab. We'll be getting into this when we dive into some groupings. Will make a lot of sense as we sort of go into sort of the behind the scenes. But this is where you can basically set up, the groups that this customer is assigned to, the sales reps that this customer is assigned to. You can certainly adjust them on the fly. We try to marry this up with the data that's in the ERP system as well. Again, the whole concept is I don't want you doing the same job twice. So, the groupings, the price structures, the rep assignments that are already done in your ERP, those typically just flow right up to OrderEase, unless you're on something a little bit more basic, maybe like a QuickBooks. But in that instance, again, we're very strong with QuickBooks because we're filling the gaps preventing a QuickBooks user having to jump maybe to that very robust ERP that they're not quite ready for yet, and QuickBooks is doing its job well. OrderEase can fill these gaps like pricing group assignments, sales rep assignments, promotional, pricing tiers, all those kinds of things. But from here, this is where you can assign your groups. Again, like I said, we'll dive into groups in a moment, but this is where you can manage them, bring up all your different groupings, assign it to the customer for whatever that grouping is or group is delegating, and they'll have the correct experience. It's the same thing with sales reps. You can have multiple reps tied to an account. You would just can determine, who's the primary rep. So if Yvette is the primary rep, 99% of the time manages this account, she'll be set as the primary. But you know what? We've also got, let's just say Alan, who also operates in that region or that territory. He's got his own list, but you know what? There's a little overlap. We're going to assign Alan as the secondary rep, who will pick up pick things up if Yvette goes on holiday, takes a leave of absence. It gives Alan access to this customer profile to also write the orders for it, need be. Again, those can all be adjusted on the fly. You even look at trade show instances where maybe you want to turn, maybe there's some reps or people going to the show. They actually have a setting that says can access all customers. So maybe you turn that on during a trade show. They get the full profile of all the customers. You never know who's showing up at a booth. They place the orders. They're credited for assisting in writing those orders. And when the show ends, we just turn the toggle off. They still have record of those orders, but then their experience goes back to their standard customer list or the territory list that they're supposed to see versus everybody. And then one of the last things here outside of notes and more is the notes section. You think of it like a very simple sales CRM. I've seen so many different, rep profiles. I'm a rep myself. You've got the very tech savvy individuals. You've got what I call the seasoned or traditional reps that are a little hesitant on new technology. We want to make it very simple for both parties to kind of jump on board, use the system. And with this section, it just allows you to leave some general company notes on this particular customer of yours. They're general notes that can be edited by anyone at the supplier or adjusted or added to. But if a rep wants to come in and leave a bit of a note for themselves, kind of lock it down, they can leave some additional notes and add a note for themselves and decide if they want to share that note with a customer, or again, is it really something more internally facing just for us to have context to. The last thing here on the notes section is also the order notes. So on submission, when you send an order in, you could leave notes at a line item level or potentially leave notes at the order level. Any order level notes are going to translate here. You'll have a full record of every note that a customer left you as the rep or the supplier through the portal, any notes that the rep has left on an order for the customer, and any correspondence back and forth on those notes as well, with a timestamp, who submitted it. You've got reference to the order ID number, the date, and is it a public note or a private note? Public, customer facing; private, internal facing only. Of course, you can print these orders right from this section as well. And there is the more option, which is the last piece of the customer profile. Things like we want to send them a link to our catalog just to remind them either to get back into the system, or maybe it's a little nudge to sort of claim their user. Same thing with the welcome email. We can resend them, hey, we pre-registered you, hadn't seen you sign up or claim your user yet. We can reissue the welcome email as well. And same thing with potentially a text message for the mobile app download. It's a free download for all parties, for suppliers, for reps, for customers, of course. So you're able to send them a link to download the free mobile app you're providing them. It is available through Apple and the Android or Google Play Store environments as well, and no cost for it. So that's typically sort of the customer profile. Easy enough to follow along, not a lot of futzing around, and pretty straightforward when it comes to sort of both ends of the spectrum when it comes to technology comfort at a rep level. So one of the things that we'll sort of navigate to, which is things like the groupings and what I alluded to, is what you'll notice at the bottom left here is we do have what I call the hamburger menu. So inside of here, this is where you'll see some options when it comes to sort of your customers, and we'll go through them at a very high level. So one of them here is called the quick add customer. You know what? We have a customer, they want to do business with us. I don't have all the information that I need, but I need to get them started and maybe get them a quote or get them, a sample order or something to get them going. In here, this is where you can set up a customer with some very basic information. What you'll notice through OrderEase is things with the red stars or the mandatory criteria. The other stuff is optional, but of course encouraged, especially things like an email address. So, filling out the company name, your contact first and last, email, potential phone number. I highly recommend the email. That way, when you submit that first order or their, initial quote, they're going to get that correspondence from you. So again, very handy. But could be used at a trade show environment where you're setting some up very quickly. They don't have a lot of time with you to go through a full registration. They're like, yeah, we're so interested. We want to get this going. You can start setting them up, getting them a sample order sent over or an order at the show floor, whatever the nuance or variable might be. But very straightforward, set them up, allows you then to go in, put them in the groups, assign a rep need be, start an order. Can always do that after the fact, but highly encourage the groupings just for that right price structure to show up for this first order if they decide to. Another option here that we had is, of course, the add customer. This is the more formal addition of a customer. So, what's the formal company name, contact first and last, email, phone number? Do you want to have record of their website? And then as you fill this in, it takes you to the next page about, what's their ship to information. Give me the address, the zip, the postal, the suite number, all the general information to actually set up their ship to location, a bit more of a complete profile for them right from the get-go. And one of the last things that you'll have an option on there as well is to determine, do they have an alternate bill to? So it allows you to delineate the ship to from the bill to, but if they say, yep, we're independent, it's the same, easy enough, it'll just associate the ship to as the bill to. But again, can adjust it on the fly, true it up from the ERP system, lots of ways to go around it or to go about it. We also have the import function. Quite a few imports through OrderEase can be used in a multitude of different ways. We've got some clients that are non-integrated, so they're self-managing for whatever the reason could be. We want to make sure that with whatever they're looking to accomplish, whether it's customers, products, inventory, pricing, contacts, anything like that, there's imports available for it. So for today's session, very focused on the customer side. So from here, this is where we can see we can do a full-fledged customer import. It gives you all the required fields, lets you know if they're required, if they're optional. Of course, a little bit more of a complete profile is always encouraged or recommended, but gives you a breakdown of all the different fields, all stuff that you've probably seen before. What's the rep you want to assign? Do they have payment terms? They're billed to, they're shipped to, company phone number, name, their ID number, all the standard information. And we do even allow a sample file, so that way you can even export a sample import template. It'll even give you a basic record to start you to show you the context. And if you hover over the headings, it does pull up some of the descriptors to tell you what does this heading mean and what does it mean upon the import and how it's going to be reflected as well. So this import here is more so just to get your general company profiles all set up for your customers. We can also do the private information. So again, this is that section we saw that's more tied to the ERP, allows you to do these imports on the fly. See maybe these imports getting used maybe when there's an ERP migration and you're moving some customer records from, let's say, a QuickBooks over to a NetSuite. The IDs number potentially change, the structures of the internally change. This allows us to bridge the gap either through the integration or through imports. We've got ways to speed up that timeline or work around it, or at least make it flexible to say, well, what's the best path forward to tackle this migration as that one example. The buying groups and the sales rep imports, of course, what groupings should this customer fall into? And like I alluded to, groupings can, delegate what price they're supposed to see. Are there private label items that this group of buyers should have access to that others shouldn't have access to, especially if we brand their bag of Black Earth, or we brand this beverage or this consumer packaged good to their branding or to their brand. If we're setting those products up, flag them as private label, we need to determine what group of customers should have access to that as an example. But a multitude of different things that the groups delegate, even shipment windows, which again, we'll have a look at in a second, to put your customers in their right shipment windows. This group is our Monday delivery. This group is our Tuesday delivery. This is Wednesday and so forth. This group has a 3-day lead time. This one's within 24 hours because they're, under 50 clicks from where our distribution center is or our head office or whatever that might be. But allows you to import, reference the customer, and then just quickly assign, who are their primary reps, the secondary reps, and what buying groups they should go into for their correct experience. It's the same thing with the contacts. Again, importing, if you say, well, hey, we pulled up, we don't have all the contacts inside of our ERP. We've got the general email, like the accounts payable or finance or accounting at so-and-so customer. We can even do the contacts update through an import as well. So as you see, even through the customer side, importing customers, updating their private information and linkages back to systems, updating their buying groups and their grouping structures and sales rep structures, and even the contacts that we're doing. Each of these imports also has that sample file, allows you to import it, and we've even got a log section here just to show you the different imports that might be happening from the system, automatically through manual imports, their statuses, if they're successful, when they were done, and what type of import it was from an inventory or product. As you see this one, product and inventory updates are happening frequently as the most common one. So what we'll do is we'll take a step back here. We've gone through imports. Okay, so now we're into groups. So like I alluded to, groups are what give OrderEase the highest level of configurability and flexibility within the system. You might, like I said, set up a grouping that delegates what customer accounts should see these private label items. It's a group. You tag customers in that group and you flag that group to your private label items so they only have access to those certain items. It's the same thing with minimums, shipping windows, like I alluded to. What price lists, what promotions are they supposed to see? What volume incentives are they supposed to see? It's just groups attached to certain criteria, like I alluded to, putting the customers in those different groupings so they have the correct experience. And a customer can overlap between groups. This group delegates their shipping window. This is their price. This is, their private label. They could be in 3 groups. We can create groups on the fly. We can edit groups, of course. We can copy groups if we're going to take the same structure and replicate it for another account and just go, well, we're just changing their shipment window, but they get the same price structures allocated. Things of that nature that allows you to easily carbon copy groups and then adjust on the fly. Telling you things like how many price levels are associated with these typical groupings, how many members are a part of these groups or customers, when was the group created, what's the name, and what is this group ultimately doing? Is it a pricing group? Is it something that's related to what catalogs or list of product they should have access to? Because again, you could have different catalogs or listings of products in OrderEase. I might sell this dedicated list to customer A, and customer B gets some overlap of products, but maybe there's some, like you see with like Roundup, or certain chemicals. I can't sell it on the East Coast, but I can sell it on the West Coast. That's where we can set up different groups tied to catalogs, and that presents the products they're supposed to see. So it does a multitude of different things. And even if I were to go into, let's say, this general pricing group here, you could see sort of like, is it a catalog visibility? Is it meant for order flow? Because what we can do is order orchestration to determine, well, if we get an order from this group of customers, that order needs to flow a certain way. It gets delegated to this certain 3PL that's being fulfilled by a third party, or moves through this type of system behind the scenes. If maybe you've delegated 2 separate workflows, private label, like I alluded to. Is it a communications group? Now, we do have a marketing section just over here, as you see, probably covered in a later segment. You could think of it like a MailChimp Lite. Our core competency is not email marketing or analytics behind email marketing like a MailChimp or Constant Contact, but we do allow you to create email blasts, as many as you want. It could be even things like recurring shipment notifications. So like every Tuesday, if this is the Tuesday shipment group, every Tuesday we can send or let's say every Friday of the week prior, we could send an automated shipping information or email out to the customer to say, hey, don't forget, if you didn't get your order in, your shipment cutoff is today at 4:30 p.m. Don't forget to get your orders in because your delivery is for next Tuesday. That could run every week, ongoing, automatically to remind them. Get in, place their orders, and they can move on with their day, and that just runs every week. Things like pricing, again, determine is this a pricing group and is it a reporting group? Reporting just means it's a group that I can pull in the reports section, but it's also a group like we saw in our previous session on the dashboard. Is it one of our group structures where I can see, oh, this is our EDI group, this is our Target group, this is our Shopify group, this is our WooCommerce group, Costco, regional groups, brings that to your dashboard to see how many orders that group is doing and what value in dollars that group is bringing you as well. So allows you to set those up. You can name the group, add a bit of a descriptor for context. You can set some of these groups as default. So when you sign up new customers, they automatically fall in maybe the introductory price group, the introductory shipping window group, the introductory minimums group. Hey, new customers, their order minimums are X. Repeat customers or order minimums are a little less. It's whatever I've seen it all those different variables. And just some general catalog settings. Should they see the actual catalog? Yes, definitely. Should they see the general starting price of what wholesale is? So if you start wholesale, let's say it's $14.99, and this customer gets it at $10.99, should they see the comparison? Or should they just see their allocated special price with no comparison? Should they see inventory? This group particularly as well. As we go through groupings, things like the pricing, do we set it up at a group level? Hey, anyone in this group gets 20% off of net, or our general, whatever our baseline wholesale price most expensive is, this group just gets 20% off of that simple price structure. Or does it actually fall into something a little bit more complex or a little bit more, a little bit more going on than just a flat 20%. This is where we can actually bring in their price lists, their price levels, their promotional levels, assign it to the group, and then you can see what lists or price levels and whatnot are associated with this group. You can also search for them, attach them, create them, then associate them. Lots of ways to go about it. Even setting up things like minimum order enforcement in dollars or a typical maybe shipment units. They need 50 units on their order for a minimum, or hey, a minimum order is $500 for this group and it's $5,000 for a group that is miles and miles and miles away because the shipment is going much further. So their minimum to make it justifiable for all parties is going to be a little bit higher. Assignments, again, what catalogs or list of products should this customer have access to? Is it part of a consortia? I'll definitely say consortias for another time, but it's basically an ecosystem within an ecosystem that we can create. We typically see with buying groups that basically sit between a supplier and a member, and they're doing promo buys or they've negotiated better rates. It more so ties into that functionality. And of course, the shipment windows. This is, again, delegating. This customer grouping is their Tuesday delivery group. So when a rep goes in or a customer goes in, they can only pick Tuesdays as their shipment day. So instead of saying, hey, we want it tomorrow, and you have to get back to them every time, so don't forget, you guys are the Tuesday group. We won't be able to get it till Tuesday. This is where you can set up all that from the get-go. And one of the last things other than members, just knowing who is in this group or adjusting who's in this group. If you like to do it manually through an import, through an integration, it's just the properties. What happens when an order is submitted? Does it go right to the ERP system? Does it go to the rep first for approval? Do we put this maybe in a hold state potentially during spring booking season, so all the orders get held in OrderEase and on a certain date? It allows the reps to come back, adjust them, make changes, but when the certain hold date hits, it then notifies to say, now we're ready to send these orders down to the ERP system. Things like custom order submission fields. You might have some standard custom fields you put in that apply to all customers, but maybe you've got certain accounts or certain customer types where you need to have something additional where they mention on their checkout or on their order submission. A custom field could be as simple as, is forklift required upon delivery? Yes or no? And you deciding, is it a mandatory field that the rep or customer has to fill out, or is it optional? Or is it very specific to a group of accounts? Like, what's your ACE ID number, or, ACE hardware, or like anything like that? That could be very specific to your ACE group, but that field's not going to show up to your other groups when they're submitting the orders. Again, as we're seeing, this can be really catered to those groups and having their specific experiences with their specific criteria and certain things that they need to be, that you're requesting on their submission that might be different from others. Preferred payment methods, shipment costs that can kind of be worked into the solution. Just very things that are very specific to, again, this grouping of buyers that you've set up and what's the thing that this group is actually delegating. All these fields don't have to be filled out on every single group. It can be done if it works out. But again, maybe groups are delegating very specific things that you've separated it out, where it's because an all-in group for something just didn't work. Hey, we've got 2, we've got 3, and the customer overlaps between them. Awesome. So apart from that, we'll take a bit of a back step again. We've talked about some groups. We've also got leads. So this is, gives you a bit of a context of what is a lead, something very early that you'd like to start engaging with. This was a business card that was dropped off at the trade show. This was the 20-second conversation you had passing by somebody. They handed you some info, but you really don't know much about them. You really don't know what their interest is in, but you're like, I met this person, or I have their business card. I want to get them into the system. So very basic, their name, email, cell, a little note or blurb about them. And if you add them, they can receive just a very nonchalant, sort of a little bit of branding to you, just about, thanks for stopping by. You can send them the text message need be if you'd like to, but it just start gathering sort of your leads in the system. They're not full customers yet. You do have the ability to transition a lead to a customer, and this sort of gets them a little bit just of something from you as well. And maybe they register. You can approve them as well after you find out if they're a good fit. Just a great way to just sort of easily, without a lot of complication, just start navigating some of your leads and building your leads list also. And excuse me, one of the last things here when it comes to or pertaining to customers is also your managed relationships. And we did allude to this in a prior session. We're on the dashboard. One of the very last things there was pending relationships, people that signed up right from your website because we provide the links for your website. I want all traffic going to your site. I want this referenced as your system. We have full white label options. We have co-branded solution options, kind of like you see with, like, that lack of a better term, of Shopify. Hey, it's all your branding, little bits of Powered by Shopify, very similar with OrderEase, powered by OrderEase, supported by OrderEase, those kinds of things. But if anyone signs up right from your website, they're waiting for approval, you'll obviously be notified, or staff will be notified through emails. It'll show up right on your dashboard for an administrator to go in and review, but you can do that right from the Manage Relationships area by clicking on it. We'll bring up any customer that's waiting to hear back from you. Of course, right here, I have no one waiting to hear back, but if they did, you'd see them right here as a pending relationships, customers pending your approval, versus this one where you invited customers, where you're waiting for the customers to claim their accounts. Still doesn't mean you can't write orders for them, but these are the ones that are you've invited, still haven't claimed. But the ones that are inbound, potentially good opportunities, they'll land here. You'll get all the basic information because they had to fill out a customer profile in the beginning, contact, shipment info, business name, everything. You could go through your standard vetting process. You could call them, email them, request any extra certifications or licenses or whatever that might be. And then if they're a good fit, just to the right here, you'd have an approve or deny access button. If you approve them, like I alluded to in the last session, it'll just bring up your groups, bring up your sales reps, you flag it all into one shot, hit OK, all parties get notified. The customer gets notified through your branded email. Hey, you're now approved for wholesale. Everything's approved. If you log in with the credentials that you set up originally, the products, the pricing, the customer list, the shipment lead times, all that stuff, it's ready to go for you. It's the same thing with the rep. If you approve it and you assign this to one or multiple reps, they just got an automated email saying, hey, Kyle, next time you log into the rep side of our solution, this new customer is on your customer list. They're pre-configured. Please now start engaging with them because they've been approved. Outside of that, I think one of the last things just to touch on is, you do have the option to print or to export your customer list for whatever reason. Maybe you're doing an internal audit. You're looking at, say, new organic signups in OrderEase versus the ones in your ERP system. Because typically, it doesn't have to be an all-in workflow, but just some context as well. And why I allude to this is that, one of our typical workflows and most common ones is that once a new customer signs up and you've approved them, well, they're technically still a lead. Once they start putting their first order, spending some dollars with you, they're truly a customer. That when they do place that first order, even being a brand new account you approved, we will send that order to your respective ERP system. We will create the company record for you, drop that customer in, especially validate it's there already something that's similar with the customer already there. And then it saves you those steps of having to get all the basic information in. We've helped you out, and then you can take it the rest of the way with anything that's there. So that's sort of the office hour session number 2 today. Very focused, customer focused today. In future sessions, we'll be diving into things like products, the ordering experience, and some of the supplementary functions that you see on my screen here and the value that it brings. But I will be opening up the session for any Q&A, any questions that come about, just because we got a couple minutes to spare from the hour. I'm open to discussing anything today, or again, certainly can reach out to me after the fact. I don't think I see any comments in this section. Recording. Later today, perfect. Yeah. So most of the comments I'm seeing right now are just for the recording purposes. But if there is no comments or any questions at this moment, like I said, you can certainly reach out to me after, have a bit of a discussion. No sales pitch, just go over sort of what this means to you. And yeah, I appreciate everybody joining us for office hours number 2. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next couple of weeks for session number 3. Thanks, everyone.